Hey guys, Ryan Earnhardt here from CreativeSoundLab.tv. Well, today we're checking out two of the Plasma Rack distortion units by Gamechanger Audio. This is a truly unique sound sculpting device. It basically allows you to play your signal through a bolt of electricity. And it's basically developed from the old flashbulb technology, and this distortion idea came first as a guitar pedal, and then now they've developed this as a rack unit, and that definitely got my attention because we're now going out of guitar territory and reamping territory, and we're going into mixing territory. It has a line input, it has send and returns, it has expanded features, it has wet and dry, EQ, tremolo, a ring mod. This thing is really cool. It makes a lot of cool sounds. Let's go to the rack now, and I'll show you a little bit about the front panel and how to dial in sounds. So I'm going to be demonstrating all these sounds on either a mono example of one plasma rack or a pair. And what's really cool is that you can actually link these using the MIDI send, and it actually sends MIDI to the second unit. And with a just slight move of each of the knobs, they're synchronized. And so I've been having a lot of fun just leaving these in sync because it just sounds huge. So the basic layout of this is that we have our distortion, we have our tremolo, we have our EQ circuit, which is used to fine-tune the sound of the distortion. We have a clean gate. Now, the distortion is only present when you turn this knob any degree to the right. So we can actually turn off the distortion by going all the way left, but we still have access to the tremolo, the clean gate, and the EQ when that's enabled. So let's start with the distortion part. So here we have the blend knob all the way to the left, which is going to be a clean signal. Now I should note that I'm actually putting a lot of signal into the plasma rack here, so I can pat it down. And that actually is a true clean signal there. However, I kind of like the sound of it getting a lot of volume, a lot of amplitude into the distortion here. So we're actually technically a clean signal here, but I just think that sounds so cool. Okay, so we have our gain set. Now let's see what the distortion actually sounds like. Moving on to the tremolo. Tremolo is actually really cool. It goes from really slow to really fast, and there's a couple different modes to it. Right now it's under depth, so it's basically the amount of tremolo. So we have more and we have none, which is like a unity gain. We also have a negative side to this, and this is really only appreciated or heard when you're like on a slow speed and you're also using distortion. And it actually goes back and forth between clean, distorted, whereas on the right side of that dial, it's just like on and off with clean and distorted together here. Then dynamic is giving you the option of applying this tremolo to only the attack or only the release. This is really cool for adding like a very fast kind of oscillating ring mod tremolo to only the attack, or you can make it sound like it's falling apart as it rings out. Really cool. A slower setting on the tremolo, on like a vocal. As the vocalist sings, as they get quieter, it starts to actually flutter. Really cool effect.
Running face to save me. I just wanna get lost in that smile for a while, and I say hello.
Clean gate is actually really nice because even in the clean mode here with just 100% clean, it actually is still taking cues from the plasma tube here. So it's still kind of operating, I want to use the word sidechain here, but we're not actually hearing the distorted sound, but it's still operating like a plasma would, and it's cutting in and out. And it gets that kind of spitty, in and out sound, crackly kind of sound, but in the form of a gate. You can also use this with distortion. So this really just kind of puts it over the top for me. I mean, it looks amazing, and it really kind of amplifies the effect of the distortion and how it kind of cuts in and cuts out. Last couple of things here, we have sustain, which is a built-in compressor. It's designed for guitar, but it's probably good for a lot of other things too. We have oversaturate, which, I mean, literally just dimes this thing. You really just see this go flatline, and there's not a whole lot of movement, but it's pretty nuts. Now, one really cool thing about using a pair of these is that, if you had one, you play a bass guitar through it, and it sounds really cool, but it's still in mono. However, when we link the two units, now we play a mono signal into both of these, and they're going to break up just very slightly differently, and they're going to have a little bit different crackle between the left channel and the right channel, and we're actually creating a stereo distortion, which is really cool. We can also have slightly different pitches, kind of in a ring mod kind of setting, where we have a very fast tremolo, and we kind of find our setting that we like on kind of the master plasma rack here, and then we go and break the connection, break the link, and we kind of just tweak it off like that. And we can kind of dial in certain intervals, maybe like an octave, or something that kind of interacts with our program material, like it interacts with certain notes of guitar solo. Now, one thing I haven't talked about is this effects loop line level. There's actually 3 effects loops on the back, and this enables you to insert other effects, either guitar pedals or studio effects, such as EQs, compressors, whatever it may be, and it allows you to insert those effects into the circuit of the plasma rack. So for example, if I didn't want to use this sustain, it's a compressor that I can't manipulate or change at all. And if that doesn't happen to suit me, then I actually could patch in a different compressor. Or I could patch in an EQ. Or, and this will really kind of be nuts, but I could actually patch in a second plasma into the inside of the first plasma. And so this gets a little nuts. But there are just so many cool different things that we could try with this. One example of patching in and say an EQ to the middle of a plasma rack is with my snare drum. I wanted to kind of thin out the low end and kind of more so sculpt the sound of the snare more than what I could with just these EQ knobs here. And so what I did is I patched into effects loop number 2, and I was able to kind of thin out the sound right before the point of the plasma tube here. And I cut a lot of stuff from kind of the low end using this Audioscape EQP-A. It's a Pultec style EQ, but I've also played around with compression. There's just so many cool things you can do with it. Now, one thing I noticed is no matter what level that you specify here, if you're patching in professional audio equipment that has XLR inputs, you're going to have to wire up a adapter that is unbalanced. So I had to use a unbalanced 1/4 inch to go out of the plasma rack, and then XLR to get into my EQP-A. The XLR connector going in here, the pin 1 and pin 3 were shorted together to create an unbalanced connection. And this was for the input and outputs going to and from the plasma rack. Okay, I would love to know your thoughts on this. This thing was just crazy fun, okay? I've never really experienced anything like this. And I kind of think that I've just scratched the surface. And I've spent a lot of time with this. I kind of got a feel for where it likes to get pushed and what kind of things that it can do. But there's just so much more I could try with this. Again, this, it gets a very specific sound, but I think that what it does, I don't know anything else that really can do these sorts of things. Adding rig mod to only the sustain of a drum sound, or only to the attack, or this like really spitty gate behavior. And of course, the distortion itself, it's just a very unique sound that's just completely up in the stratosphere, okay? So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, okay? If you had a favorite example from today, let me know in the comments below. And if you have an idea that maybe I should try, I'd be happy to try it. So comment below if maybe you have an idea for a future video. So I'll be hanging out there in the comments below.